back on Veterans Chronicles. Ryan, we want to talk now about some of the darker days in Iraq. You had a good friend, Drew Kemple, who was killed by a sniper. You had other friends, 19 in your company that were
regiment.
I apologize. That were killed by IEDs. Can you talk about those experiences and under what circumstances you were in when they happened?
Basically, what we were exposed to in 2005 and 2006, and pretty much everything since Iraq, was we didn't really have those drawn-out gunfights where you just, have an enemy on one end and us on the other and just unloading, because basically it's unfair for them because we would lay waste. It's an easy victory. So what they would do, these terrorists, it was kind of like the hidden attacks they were doing, these ghosts, if you will. They'd set up roadside bombs, or have snipers, and these are things that were in a lot of cities throughout the country, and they're still over there. And Afghanistan is really picking up and catching up. But these IEDs stands for improvised explosive devices, roadside bombs, basically. And sometimes they can be anything and everything. They're very creative. I'll give them that. They can be very creative. They've changed the measures. Sometimes they can really fill up a car with these explosives, and they kind of turn it into a suicide car or a VBID, the acronym. Military loves acronyms. But these roadside bombs, you can try your best to try to find these things, but man, 98% of the time they'll find you. The other 2%, if you find one, it's because it either detonated wrong or you're working off a tip, because it sounds easy. Oh yeah, just, I've had my friends be like, why don't you just scan the sides of the roads? Man, I wish it was that easy, because you keep your eyes peeled, but these streets are filled with garbage. They're filled with cans, trash, dead animals, people, bricks, you name it. It's just these garbage. There's obviously no waste management throughout Iraq. So you're just exposed to everything, and you really put your mindset, you got to be ready for things to go from zero to hell in a second. And some of these IEDs that we're running into, I think the first one that I ever got hit by, we're traveling down the main highway, and there was a 120 or a 155 millimeter round, artillery round, shoved near a guardrail, like you'd see on any bridge, even here in America, just a simple guardrail, whatever. I think maybe it was kind of shielded by a box. But if you're traveling down the southbound lane, you wouldn't see it, and that's exactly what happened. And it detonated, and they suck every time, man. There's a whole lot of panic, if you will, when those things happen. And if it's not your vehicle, it's usually better when it's your vehicle. Sometimes just because you instantly know in that second the status of everybody around you. It's when it happens to a different vehicle is when the weight and the panic increases, because if you don't hear them immediately on the radio, your mind really it just goes crazy, because you're thinking, okay, what's the status? Is everybody okay? Is everybody alive? Is the vehicle drivable? So many things are running through your mind, and then obviously you have a job to do in your own vehicle. It's just one big crazy mind game, and they only get more complex from there. There were some things that we ran into of them really catching on to our tactics on how we would come across things and drive around, and they'd take advantage of that by basically one time they set up a dummy IED, so of course we'd find that, stop, and what we were doing is stopping in a kill zone, and then they knew that we'd stop if we saw something, and then while we're parked, that's when we would get hit. And they're taking advantage of the scenery. Obviously, when we did this, they tucked an artillery round in a dead dog. So basically, you drive by, okay, well, it's just a dead animal. They're all over the place. Well, this one was different because it exploded. So it's a whole lot of, like I said, you can train all day and all night, and you can be on your A game every day. But these guys are so creative that they're always one step ahead of you. And it never got easier. It never got better. It's just, when things didn't explode, it was a good day. When things did, that's just the way this war is being fought. So you gotta deal with that. And snipers are another issue. There's tall buildings. You can look all day and scan all night. But if they're there, they're there. And, it's pretty easy for them. So it's a crazy mind game that you have to get into, and it's hard to get out.
And your buddy Drew, that was shot. Now, what kind of a situation was that when he was killed by the sniper? Was it unexpected? Were you guys under enemy fire that you were aware of?
No, it was quite unexpected, but it was a normal day, just like we always had done. He was in the turret of a Humvee, a job that I and many others did every day, every night, every patrol. And these are our turrets. Back in '06, we didn't have as much protection as some of the Humvees have now, with like these canopy covers and higher armor. So he's kind of exposed, and when you park a Humvee, he's parked. It's not like a soldier that's dismounted who can walk around and has that luxury of being a moving target. Now he's an isolated, immovable target. And we're on this street in Tikrit. I think it was 40th Street was the name. Not really a street we had a lot of problems on. There were problems that we would encounter every now and then, like drive-bys and such. And most of those were drawn towards the Iraqi security forces to kind of scare them off. But 40th Street was like kind of a row of businesses, so it was very populated with people, and there were some taller buildings, no skyscrapers or anything. I mean, that's just not Iraq, but there's some tall buildings. So being in the turret, you have a lot to look at and a lot to be aware of. But it was about 6 in the evening or so, or maybe 5 in the evening on February 12th, 2006. He was standing in his turret. A shot rang out from somewhere. We don't really know for sure. And it was a sniper's bullet, and this bullet pierced him in his left collarbone and sent him to the ground of his Humvee. He wasn't killed instantly, but he didn't last long while the Humvee was driven to the hospital, and he died along the way. But you try to look at that and try to learn from that, and what can we do? But there wasn't really much we could do. You're in a turret when you park a Humvee, so everybody else can do their job. That's just the way things are. So, and then after that, things changed because, yeah, we knew that there were snipers in Iraq, but now we knew that there was one in our neighborhood, and really created some mind games for you. But it's unfortunate.
Did those situations keep you up at night thinking about different ways that you could avoid it, and even with fear?
Exactly. As soon as that happened, I brainstormed my best, because that was my job too. And if the worst thing that could happen is to lose another guy to the same exact situation and have us do nothing. So we all did a lot of things. We sat down like that night and we came up with these ideas, like maybe we should keep the vehicle in motion. Maybe we should have these the dismounted element will walk while the mounted element, instead of park and wait, can do their own mounted element patrol through a different area, still close in contact with the dismount. I mean, we just came up with a lot of things. We started toying around with the idea of maybe we should build these canopies or have little nets for us to kind of shield us from being such a visible target, or we should traverse the turret a lot more or keep a lower profile. We came up with so many different things, but that's what you got to do, and that's the type of warfare that we were in, is a whole lot of on the go training, because we didn't really have training going in pertinent to the war we were fighting. So everything was learning as you go, and everything is tailored to what you're exposed to.